Hello and welcome. Thank you guys for joining. We're going to just wait a few more minutes here while folks jump on. I know the hour just started for everyone, so please just bear with us. But I'll go ahead and get started with introductions while we wait for folks to jump. My name is Anthony Chan. I have been the training and manager and data specialist here at the ARC. I've been working at the ARC for many years now, well over a decade. And I'm very excited to be talking to you guys about Able Accounts. And I'm joined by my co-presenter here, Celia Morrison.
Hi, yes, I'm Celia, and I am also delighted to be here with you and talking about Able Accounts, here with Anthony talking about Able Accounts. I've been with the ARC for going on 6 years this fall, and one of my favorite roles is doing the adult education side, whether it's professional development, parent trainings. And so we're excited to be live on Facebook and with you all on Zoom talking about things in kind of an intro way and inviting your questions. Hopefully, this will just be a starting point. So, if you're an able expert, welcome. You might not learn a ton of new things today, but if you're on and you're like, please start with the acronym, I don't even know what ABLE is, you're in the right place. We're going to start slow. This is just an introduction. And there are lots of resources that we'll be sure to leave you with when it comes to ABLE accounts and benefits in general for people with disabilities who want to work.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and get started. We want to respect your lunch hour here, give you back as much time as we can. So we're here to talk about Able Accounts. This is Achieving a Better Life Experience account, and it's a great saving tool for people with disabilities. So before we get started, we do want to make it clear that this is a safe zone. So feel free to share your thoughts and ideas. You guys are in a Zoom webinar, so your cameras and microphones are disabled by default, just so we don't get any background noise by mistake. I know a lot of people got pets and they're always walking all over your keyboard and stuff like that, so we don't want any accidental interruptions. But we do have a chat feature, so you are more than welcome to type into the chat, and there should be a Q&A feature as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to use that. You can also react. There are emojis if you'd like. You can raise your hand if you want our attention, and you can always just message us saying, hey, can you please unmute me? We can definitely re-enable your mic if you don't feel like typing your full question as well. We've got plenty of time to get through everything, so please don't hesitate to ask us if you have questions about these ABLE accounts. So, a little bit about us, our contact information here. So if you have any follow-up questions about who we are, questions about Able, other topics you'd love to hear about, you can always reach out to us via email. It's achan@includemepa.org and cmorrison@includemepa.org. So our goal for you guys is to be able to determine if this Able account is right for you and your family. There's a lot to learn about Able accounts. We definitely want you guys to feel well informed before you make any financial decisions, like opening a savings account through the Able program. We want you to be able to research more about Able accounts. Something you're going to hear me saying is that not all Able accounts are created equally. Each state implements it a little bit differently. So there's certain perks, pros, and certain cons as well for opening an account in a specific state. So we're going to touch a little bit about that, and we'll definitely talk a lot about Pennsylvania's ABLE program, which I think is a pretty good offering and a good example of what a really robust ABLE program looks like. And we're also going to teach you how to open an ABLE account, because it's not as simple as just walking into a bank and saying, hey, I'd love to open an ABLE account where you normally do your banking. States have partnered with specific banks, so there's a little bit of a process, and thankfully it's not too hard, but we'll get more into that later on. Now, before we dive into our PowerPoint, we do want to take a quick detour to menti.com. If you guys have joined us before, you'll know that we like to start off with a really quick survey just to get a feel for how familiar everyone in the audience is about Able accounts, so we can kind of tweak our presentation, make sure it's more relevant to you guys. So please hop on over to menti.com, that's menti.com, and use the access code 2199 3053. And you'll be able to join our survey. And if you've got your phone on you, you can just scan that QR code and it'll take you right into the survey as well. So Nicole's already shared that website and access code into the chat. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the survey so we can look at that together. Okay, so looks like some of you guys have already jumped on, and we're gonna just start with a quick little icebreaker here. We got some hot takes for you, and this is a sliding scale. So we want you to either agree or disagree with these hot takes. So on the right side of the scale, that would be you strongly agree. Middle would be you have no real strong opinion. And then on the far left side, you might be disagreeing. So our first question for you is, a bar of soap cannot be dirty. I mean, it's soap, right? It should be self-cleaning. So do you think it can actually be dirty? And it seems like most people are leaning towards it might be able to get a little dirty. I don't know about you guys, but if I dropped a bar of soap in like a puddle of mud or something, I'd definitely rinse that off, right? I wouldn't just start rubbing it all over myself. And then our second hot take is texting is as good as a phone call. And I know we just had Mother's Day weekend. I hope you guys called your moms and didn't just leave a nice text. But hey, everyone's got a different relationship with their family, right? So maybe a text is as good. Maybe you're a great writer. Who knows? You can make really nice texts as well. All right. So it looks like most people have joined and have had a chance to respond. So we're going to move on to the real question here. We want to know about how comfortable you are with able accounts. So either agree or disagree with this statement. You know a lot about able accounts. So slide it over to the left. This is all brand new to you and you just want to learn more. And then slide it over to the right if you know a lot about able accounts. And that can help us get a sense of where everyone's at. And we also want to know how, if you know how to open an Able account, because like I said, it's not quite as straightforward as you would hope, right? You can't just go into your local bank and just say, hey, I need to open an Able account. You'll probably get a blank stare or a confused look from that teller. So we'll definitely walk you through that process as well. Okay, seems like everyone's had a chance to respond. So I'm going to move us back to the PowerPoint. So if you're off the Zoom window, definitely click back into that so we can look at the PowerPoint together. And if you're having trouble finding it, maybe just try relogging back in. I know that can be, the Zoom window likes to hide from me sometimes. So no worries there. And we will record this session. So you'll have an opportunity to look at it if you miss anything. But let's start by talking about an Able account. So like I said earlier, it is an acronym. Stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience. And this was a special account created by the government. Basically, they realized that people who currently receive SSI or SSDI, these are Social Security beneficiary programs for people with disabilities. It can be hard to save, right? You guys are hopefully familiar with SSI and SSDI. If not, check out our previous sessions about those topics. But long story short, it is a program to assist people with disabilities, and it can get them access to cash assistance payments. So you might get a check in the mail from Social Security, depending on the program you're in, and it can give you access to Medicaid or Medicare, which can offer you a whole bunch of stuff, such as health insurance, access to services for people with disabilities, such as voc rehab, finding a job, day supports, day programs, education, home and living supports, right? So it's a lot of things that people with disabilities really rely on once they become adults. And the tricky part about it is that, when you're in these programs, especially SSI, they are looking at how many resources you have because they really are trying to target those who really need that help. And so they do have an upper limit on how much money you can have in a bank account under SSI. I believe it's about $2,000 for an individual or 3,000 if you are a married couple. And that's not a lot, right? Let's say a big storm rolls in, tree gets knocked over and hits your roof and you got to pay for repairs. $2,000 might not cover all of that. So they recognize that that's a tricky position to be in, right? You might be working, you might be doing your best, and you can't save a ton under these programs because you really need access to those other services that SSI and SSDI offer. But you know what? You're kind of stuck in a hard place right now. And so they created these Able accounts as a way for you to be able to set aside extra money, and it's a tax advantage savings account. So there's benefits to putting money into these accounts in terms of paying taxes, and we'll get more into the specifics later. So there are a lot of great financial incentives for opening an Able account.
Yeah.
But really the primary benefit is if you're receiving SSI, you can set aside extra money and it won't count towards that $2,000 limit. And it can also be used for a wide range of expenses too. So the money you put into this ABLE account, it's really meant for qualified disability expenses. And we'll get into what that really means. But the nice thing is there's a lot of flexibility. So there's not a lot of strings attached to opening an ABLE account and putting your money in there.
I think Anthony did a really great job of clarifying just how life-sustaining those Social Security benefits are for people with disabilities who are working, youth with disabilities, who have people with disabilities as part of those families. And I just read a stat earlier today that there's a general sense that it might cost more to live your life as a person with a disability. So Anthony talked about a tree falling on your house. There's also the potential that your life managing your disability will just cost more. Maybe you have to find an apartment in Philadelphia that has accessibility for your wheelchair, for your power wheelchair. So the cost can really add up. And there's a stat I read that it's up to 29%. There's an average that you would need 29% more income to have the same quality of life if you're an adult who's working and has a disability. So these ABLE accounts are awesome because, yes, we love benefits. We love that SSI exists. We got the ARC of PA, we got the ARC of US. We have ARCs all across the US fighting to protect those Medicaid benefits. And these ABLE accounts come in clutch for when, yes, you benefit from those benefits, and you'd like to have some savings when life, gives you lemons. So ABLE accounts are enormously valuable. And less than 1% of the people who are eligible for these have them. So this is us spreading the word that this is an option for savings. Um, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of great resources out there related to ABLE accounts. We're just, adding lending our voice to it as well. So don't feel like we're the end all be all about ABLE accounts. We're going to give you some resources into how to learn more. But first off, if you want to open an ABLE account or you have a loved one that might be interested in opening an ABLE account, there are some eligibility requirements. So you must have a qualifying disability that started prior to turning 26. And a qualifying disability basically means if you were qualified to receive SSI or SSDI benefits based on your blindness or disability, you're qualified. But if you don't currently receive SSI or SSDI, you can still apply and open an ABLE account. There is a self-certification process. So when you are opening your account, you can just tick the box that just says, hey, I don't currently receive Social Security supports, but I believe I qualify because of my disabilities. And then you just have to provide probably medical documentation on, why you qualify for an ABLE account. And one nice thing we really like to highlight is that thanks to the work of advocates and people with disabilities and family members and nonprofits, we kind of highlighted that 26 age range isn't great, right? There are a lot of people who might get diagnosed with a disability a little bit later in life that could really use an ABLE account. And so the government recognized that, and they've actually passed legislation to expand that eligibility window to the age of 46. And that's going into effect January 1st, 2026. So just about a little over 6 months, they're increasing that eligibility window for people with disabilities. And yeah, like Celia said, they're covering an additional 6 million people that could open an ABLE account. So that's absolutely huge for a lot of people. So what is a qualified expense? I mentioned earlier that in an ABLE account, they do want you to be able to use your money for specific things. And they said it has to be a qualified disability related expense. As you can see here on this list, it's pretty expansive. You can use it towards education, legal fees, housing, transportation, oversight and monitoring supports, funeral services, transportation, employment training and supports, financial management, assistive technology, personal support services, health and wellness, and everyday living expenses. So it can range from, hey, there's a new restaurant in town and I want to take my girlfriend out on a date. Let's go there. You can use that, absolutely. And it could also be, hey, I need to buy a new wheelchair for myself, or I need to pay for modifications to my van so it can fit myself and my wheelchair and add a ramp or whatever it might be, right? So there's a huge range of qualified expenses. And what I've heard from the Pennsylvania State when they did a webinar on this was essentially just keep a receipt. Right? No one's currently checking every moment what your expenses are. There's no process to be like, hey, this is what I'm using my money on. It's really just kind of like an account that you can withdraw money on. But it is nice to have a receipt in case they ever do decide to audit and check. But as of right now, no one is really doing that. So pretty wide range of what you can use your money for on yourself or for others, which is really nice. So let's start talking about some great reasons to open a Able account. First and foremost, the primary benefit, instead of just only having $2,000 to $3,000 of countable assets under SSI, you can put up to $100,000 in an Able account. I think that's something like a 50 times increase in how much you can save, right? 100,000 is no small change. So you can definitely put in more than 100,000 into an Able account, but that first 100,000, it's not going to count towards your overall limit under SSI. And some of you more familiar with Social Security might be thinking, hey, Anthony, SSDI, they don't have resource limits. I mean, they check if you're working and earning an income, but they don't look at your bank accounts and how much property you own. And that's generally true. But what I've learned is that there actually are certain supplemental plans available to people on SSDI. So that would be Medicare. And there are supplemental plans that do have resource limits. So if you are one of those individuals that is currently paying for a Medicare plan and they say, there are resource limits attached to it, an Able account is a great way to set aside money without counting towards that overall limit. So that's the first and probably the biggest benefit for many people with disabilities is that able to save up to 100,000 without counting towards your assets. And then another benefit would be you can withdraw from accounts as long as that's one of those qualified disability expenses, and you don't have to pay federal taxes on that. So there's no federal income tax based on withdrawals from this account. And the funds saved in an Able account up to the state plan limit will not affect eligibility for programs such as FAFSA, HUD, SNAP, Medicaid, Medicare, SSDI, voc rehab services. So we know that SSI and SSDI aren't the only resource limited programs out there. And so Able account will actually protect you with those as well, which is a really nice benefit of having that Able account, that extra coverage, extra protection. So not all Able accounts are created equally. What happens is that each state can kind of design their own Able programs. So, for example, Pennsylvania, they might choose to partner with one bank to set up Able accounts, whereas in California, they might choose a different program. And really, the main differences might be fees, investment options. Able accounts, I try to think of them as this weird hybrid of a checking account, a savings account, but also a retirement fund, right? Like a 401k, in that you can actually choose, depending on which program you open with, how you invest your money. So it doesn't just sit in a savings account. You can say, hey, I want to invest in this portfolio or this other portfolio. So your money can actually grow over time. And the options available to you are really going to vary by state. Some states might have minimum contributions. They're usually pretty low. I know for a fact to just open an account, they just want $25 as an initial contribution. So that's usually just the startup cost. But there might be additional fees depending on what state you open it in. Some accounts might be FDIC insured, others might not. And there might be additional benefits as well. I think in Pennsylvania, you might be able to get access to a debit card, for example. So it's even easier for you to withdraw money from your Able account. You can just use it for everyday purchases. So really easy to access that. And you might see on this image here that there's a lot of green and a couple states of gray. Doesn't What it basically means is that the green states are ones with current active Able account programs that are accepting new applicants. So if you live in one of those gray states, you can still apply for an Able account. You just have to look out of state because they're no longer accepting new applicants. Their Able programs are no longer active. But fortunately for us, Pennsylvania definitely has a very robust Able account program. And one website I really like to highlight is the ablenrc.org. They're a great resource and they actually have a comparison tool. You can look at up to 3 different states at a time just to see what they offer, what fees look like, investment options look like, do they have access to debit cards, stuff like that. So definitely check out ablenrc.org/compare states if you want to use that tool. And yes, just like Celia's saying, we will have these slides available after the training. We'll upload them. So let's start talking about the Pennsylvania one because I think there's some really good benefits, and I think it's a safe bet to say most of you guys here are from Pennsylvania. Now, there's nothing to stop you from opening an Able account in another state, but I think there are some specific benefits if you live in Pennsylvania with opening a Pennsylvania Able account. So first off, the first 19,000 in annual contributions are tax deductible from PA state taxes. So if you live and work in PA and you want to put money into your PA Able account as that person with a disability, you don't have to pay state taxes on that income, which is great. And that actually extends to family and friends that work and live in Pennsylvania. If you want to take advantage of that, say you're a mom or a family member and you want to gift someone with an Able account some money, you can go to yougiftable.com and contribute some money. And as long as you're under that 19,000 cap every year, that can also be a tax deduction for you as well. So great incentives for family and friends to contribute. You might also have heard of a 529 college savings account in Pennsylvania. You can transfer up to 19,000 annually from that college savings account into a PA Able if you want to consolidate everything. Remember, one of those qualified disability expenses are education. So maybe you just want to roll it all into PA Able and have that extra flexibility of being able to use that money for other things through that PA Able account. Well, you can start moving money into a PA Able from that 529 college savings account. There's also several options for investing money based in it saved in that Able account. I believe PA Bank works with Fifth National, and so they offer a couple of investment options, and you can kind of manage how that money grows over time. And also growth in your account, so that interest you earn and the withdrawals you make are PA tax exempt as well. So all PA or all Able accounts are, federally tax exempt, but also now you also have that state one as well in Pennsylvania. So great benefit for opening a PA's Able account. Other benefits, they're not subject to Medicaid repayment upon passing. So let's say the account holder does pass. A lot of times, if you are in SSI and you're using Medicaid throughout your life, what happens is some of your assets might go to paying back some of those services you used under Medicaid. But there are ways to protect that. You say, hey, I want to keep this money in the family or be able to do what I want to in my will, and not put it all into Medicaid. Able account will allow you to do that. You don't have to use that money towards repaying Medicaid services. And then the account is also exempt from PA inheritance tax as well. So there's some additional tax benefits there. And if you're using Pennsylvania health and disability related benefits that have resource limits, such as student financial aid, those are also protected. They will not count towards your overall asset limits in those PA specific programs. So Lots of great reasons to open a PA account if you live in Pennsylvania. And another thing we want to highlight is able to work. This is a federal provision that was part of the 2017 Tax Act that allows account holders with able accounts to contribute more than that $19,000 annual limit if you are working and not contributing to a defined contribution plan, such as a 401k. So in this scenario, let's say you are the person with a disability, you got a job, a great job, and normally they would offer you a pension plan or a 401k of some kind, right? Well, you can say, hey, I don't want to use that because I got this ABLE account. And if you do that, you can deposit more than that initial 19,000. I think it's up to 32,580 into the ABLE account instead. Um, Bad news is it's set to expire as of 2025. This was a temporary thing. I don't know if they will renew it. Everything's up to Congress right now. So it will expire in December. But hopefully it does get renewed and they can continue supporting this able to work provision. But in Pennsylvania, there's an additional benefit where employers in Pennsylvania can get a tax credit for matching contributions to an ABLE account. So let's say you're someone with a disability, you apply for a job and they offer benefits like contribution matching to a 401k. You might say, hey, I've got an ABLE account instead. Would you be willing to do the match to that instead of a 401k? And the added benefit is the employer can now get a tax deduction for those contributions that they put in to an ABLE account. So there's a little bit of an incentive for employers in Pennsylvania as well, which I think is really cool. Um, and and so these are just some added benefits if you happen to be working. So let's talk about opening an ABLE account. Opening an ABLE account is pretty straightforward. Not all banks will offer it, right? These are state-run programs that have partnered with specific banks. So if you want to say open a PA ABLE account, you want to go to paable.gov and you can apply online and open your account. And that's where you would access and manage all of your money. Or if you'd rather talk to someone, you can also call 855-529-2253 and that will let you apply for and open a PA ABLE account over the phone. And eligible individuals can also designate an authorized individual to open and manage the account on their behalf. So let's say you got a kiddo, they're a little bit too young to be managing all their finances right now. You as a parent might be able to open an account on their behalf and kind of manage that for now. Or maybe you have power of attorney over them just to make sure that they're using their money for the right things. You can also open an account on behalf of your loved one as well. So lots of options for opening an ABLE account. And again, if you want to shop around, look at other state programs, see what they offer. You can do that as well. And to open their accounts, you would just follow their procedures. And that ABLE NRC link will let you find that contact information pretty quickly.
So this is like an application that you just find a website, maybe you choose the state that you want to open your ABLE account and you get signed up. So we're not going to any banks for signing up with these forms or by calling these numbers to get started.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for clarifying. Yeah, you just go to that website or that number and they will be the ones to help you open the account. So there are other ways to save if you are receiving SSI. We just want to highlight those as well because the nice thing about an ABLE account is they don't care if you got these other things going on, right? In fact, more power to you. So the first one we always like to highlight is the plan to achieve self-support. We talk a lot about this in our ACRE class for employment support services, but if you're currently receiving SSI and you need help in setting aside money for work-related expenses, so it's very specific, it can't be used for anything not work related. You can do that. You just need to apply directly through Social Security. There's no setup costs. You just let them know, hey, I receive SSI. I'm trying to get back to work, but you know what? I got to pay for this certification program. Can I set aside some money so it doesn't go over that $2,000 limit? You have to submit a plan. They'll approve it. and then you'll be allowed to do that. So a lot of people do that when they want to become more independent at their jobs or maybe start their own business, achieve higher education, things like that, right? It's all about their personal employment goals in that case. Another option is a special needs trust. Some of you may have heard of this before, but it boils down to a special type of trust. So this is a legal arrangement to manage assets. So it can be money, it could be property, it could be other resources like stocks and bonds and whatever else you want to put into this trust. And it's going to be managed by someone. And there's no savings limits here, right? So you can put as much as you need to in a special needs trust. And setup costs can vary. Because this is a legal arrangement, you're going to have to hire an attorney to set these things up. Could be anything from a couple $100 to a couple thousand, right? It really depends on how complex this trust is going to be. And there's probably going to be ongoing administration fees. So let's say you got a family home, you want to gift it to your kid, and you put it in a special needs trust so it doesn't count against their overall resources. That's fine, but someone's probably going to have to manage that house, right? Make sure the taxes are being paid, the maintenance is being done. Well, that's probably there's gonna be a fee for that, right? You're gonna have to find someone to manage that and honor the trust on behalf of the person you're gifting this stuff to. Um, this can be a really good resource, especially for inheritance, or let's say you got really lucky and you won the lottery and you just suddenly you got a couple $1 million coming your way, right? Isn't that the dream? Well, obviously with an able account, you could put some in there, but usually the upper limit is about 19,000. Uh, that's not going to cover it, right? And ultimately you can have up to 100,000 in an able account before it starts counting against SSI. Well, a special needs trust might be a good option for you in those kind of rare cases. So, it really does depend on what your financial situation's like, what resources are available to you, and whether or not you want to take advantage of a tool like a trust. There are group ones as well, and there's just so many different types. We don't really have time to get into them. But just know that there are different rules, and some of that can affect, what happens to those assets after passing. Depending on how it's set up, you might have to use some of it to pay back Medicaid. It might be going to whoever administers it, especially if it's a pooled trust, like a nonprofit runs it. Or you might be able to pass it on in inheritance. Lots of different rules, so definitely do your own research on that. And if you're curious about it, definitely let us know. We can put together a webinar just on special needs trusts in the future. Um,
Yeah. Or we could
and
point you in the right direction toward folks who do that kind of work in Pennsylvania, specifically. But if you are watching this because you are a family member of a transition age student, I hope that your ears perked up when you heard about that plan to achieve self-support, thinking about college tuition and laptops and things like that, textbooks. Those could be done through that plan to achieve self-support through Social Security. And those special needs trusts, if you were like, oof, Galaxy Brain, there are so many options and I don't know which one would be the right one for me. I think that's actually a good outcome of an intro to these options because I would much rather, if I were in your shoes, have a sense of, wow, there are too many options to save money for disability related expenses than that kind of feeling of being stuck underneath the $2,000 asset limit with SSI or feeling like you don't have options. So hopefully this conversation about ABLE and these other savings options makes you feel a sense of expansive opportunity, but also recognizing that Anthony and I may be nerds about this kind of thing, but we're not the experts that you want to talk to about specifics.
Yeah, absolutely. Ultimately, do your own research, talk to experts if you need to, financial advisors, because we're definitely not financial advisors. Just based off of my research, my feeling is that able accounts are a really great low-cost tool, and it's something you can take advantage of in addition to all these other things we've just mentioned. And as you saw, able accounts can be really flexible, and it can be easier to access that money, especially if the ABLE program you apply for has things like debit cards, checking accounts, things like that. And could be a really great tool for those everyday expenses for you and your loved ones. And yeah, just a great option for families and people with disabilities.